I'm Erica Hollingsworth, and you're listening to the F1 podcast.
What's up, everyone? It is Richie here from the F1 podcast. Happy Wednesday. This is season 4, episode 26. I'm here with Andrew Cleary. Andrew, how you doing, my man?
Doing well tonight. Fun fact, this is our 100th episode. We have hit the century mark, people. Let's celebrate.
Yes, lots to be proud of. And, special guest, Tyler Hatherell, Mr. Red Bull expert. Thanks so much for coming on this week's episode and our number 100.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a while. Excited to chat some F1. Been a while since we've had F1. Been a while since I've been on the pod. And yeah, super happy for you guys that you've made it to 100. It's a big deal. It's a big milestone.
Isn't it nice to just say race week?
Oh my gosh.
It just hits so well.
Well, I don't know. It depends what team that you are kind of supporting going into the Dutch Grand Prix. I mean, it is the Max Verstappen land. But are things really good in Red Bull Racing right now? I guess the first question, let's open it up. We're recording this a couple of days before the Dutch Grand Prix. We're going to be at Trinity Common. We have a table of about 10 to 15 people. I'm hearing the bar is going to be busy, so make sure you get there early. Book your reservation. If you want to come sit with us, send us a message at the F1 podcast and we can secure your seat. So Tyler, I'm going to send the first question to you. There's kind of a lot of conversations going into this weekend as, Sergio Perez before the season was confirmed to stay for the rest of the season. I'm hearing that there's gonna be some changes for his race engineer is going on paternity leave. Hugh Bird. So I guess is there a lot of pressure on Red Bull this weekend?
I mean, there is and there isn't. The way I look at it ultimately is that, nothing that we've learned over the last few races is new because it's been almost half the season at this point where McLaren has been the fastest car, right? So, I mean, is there pressure? Yes, because at the end of the day, their championship lead is being eroded race by race. I was looking at the standings earlier today and I saw Red Bull has only outscored McLaren once in the last 8 races. So it's very clear that McLaren has a stranglehold at the top of the constructors right now, even though they are trailing. And really, it's just about damage limitation. And the question is, what can Checo do about it? Because to this point, not a whole lot. We know Max is going to show up. Whether he wins is another story, but he's going to be on the podium, getting big points, adding to the championship total for both himself and the drivers and Red Bull as they try and defend the constructors. But it's, what can Checo deliver? Because to this point, it's been P7, P9, out in Q1. And I see no reason why that's going to change this weekend. What do you guys think?
Tyler, I guess my question is to you then, what does it take for Checo to keep his seat for next season? Because in my opinion, there were higher powers at work here that allowed him to keep his seat for the second half of the season. So what does he need to do to keep in the second half to be able to keep his seat for the next season in that case?
I mean, at this point, I don't think there's a whole lot he can do unless he goes on to win a race or two and he's consistently putting it, top half of Q3 podiums. And I just don't see how that's going to happen the rest of the way. And you alluded to it, Andrew. Sounds like Liberty Media, somebody higher up got involved and said, you know what? We like the money that we make at the Mexican Grand Prix. We kind of like having a Mexican driver in that race, saved his bacon. But I mean, I don't think that's going to fly for the entirety of, 2026, 2025, looking forward. So, for me, Checo's, through sheer luck, somehow gotten an extended tryout here for another 7-8 races, and he's got to dominate and show that he can keep up with Max in order to keep that seat. Because if not, Liam Lawson's knocking. We know Danny Rick is huge within the Red Bull family. And Yuki, don't discount him as well. I think all 3 of them have a real shot at the seat in 2025. And if Checo wants to be in that conversation, then he has to show that he can deliver beyond a P7 or P8 in that Red Bull. And, like I said, throughout this season, that remains to be seen. He hasn't evidenced the fact that he can do that. So, is there a shot he can see in that seat? Sure. But, for him to be able to deliver at that level, I think, at this point, I would be shocked to see it.
Well, I think it all starts with qualifying. Because if there's an area concern that is clearly lacked his whole season, his ability to get not only to Q3, but just not crash, because Max Verstappen I think it's the last 14 races has out-qualified Checo 14-0. So, and we've talked about this on various episodes, Ty, like, if they want to hold on to the constructors, they need both drivers to be competitive. It can't just be the Max Verstappen show. And I mean, does it start in Zandvoort? Is it a safer track for a driver like Sergio Perez? Is more of the pressure going to be on Max because of his home race and going for his 4th win in a row? I mean, I would think so, but like, Max is pretty relaxed, and I think he's always been relaxed when it's his home Grand Prix. I don't think there's such thing as a pressure for him.
I think where Red Bull is really going to get hampered is towards the end of the season, when you have teams like Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari putting on their final upgrades for the 2024 car, and that Red Bull just can't afford those upgrades because of the accidents and the cost cap situation that that Checo's put them in based on his crashes, right? Having to spend money on the car just to rebuild it as opposed to enhance its performance. So I think we're going to really see that in the final 5-6 races of the year, where I feel McLaren could really step up and take over their, kind of take the lead in the World Constructors Championship. But I think Max is too good of a driver to relinquish his Drivers' Championship lead. In the races that he hasn't won, he's had factors around him where, Lando hasn't taken many points, as many points as he should off of him. And I think that's really going to come bite Lando in the butt these final races of the year, because as Tyler alluded to, like, McLaren has been the fastest car for about half the year, and they haven't really been able to capitalize on that via race wins, or even really in really high quality points finishes, right? You should expect them to finish 1, 2, 1, 3, probably on a consistent basis with the performance that they have. But just based on strategy, they haven't been able to do that. And Mercedes has been able to take advantage of that with regards to winning 3 of their last 4. So it'll be interesting to see if Red Bull can fend off Mercedes or McLaren, but then also fend off a challenging Mercedes, which I think are going to do everything in their power to be giving, a chance to win a Constructors Championship. And Lewis might not go on top of the Drivers' Championship, but be able to win a Constructors with him one last time before he goes to Ferrari, I think would mean a lot to the team.
Well, we know who's not going to Ferrari. It's Bono. Not YouTube Bono, but Mercedes Bono. So it's been confirmed that Bono will be staying at Mercedes and will not be joining Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. He's secured a promotion to the head of racing engineering. He's been working with Hamilton since they joined the team in 2013, winning 6 world titles together. And while he announced that, when Hamilton announced that he was going to go to Ferrari next year, the questions we're going to wonder is like, who's he going to bring to Maranello? Who's going to come from Mercedes? Is Toto Wolff going to try to keep as much of his staff? And I think this is probably a safe win for Toto, keeping Bono and obviously promoting him, securing his key assets for next year for the 2026 car.
Well, it's going to be funny to see how Lewis handles that, right? Because anytime we have a big shift like that, I mean, we had similar questions when Angelo left him, obviously, right? That was a big shift for him. This is going to be another one that has, I'd say, more direct impact on the track, right? Because it's the guy who's in your ear all the time. And, to go from the guy who says hammer time to the guy who says plan Q and we are checking, is going to be a big adjustment for Lewis. So I'm curious to see how it pans out for him.
Do a barrel roll. I know it's going to be so hard to hear no more get in there, Lewis, right? Because it's going to be like, we are checking, we are plan A +7. It's just none of that will happen. But I'm curious how, especially when you have a working relationship since 2013, that's 11 seasons together, right? It's going to be a huge swing, not only for Bono next season, but for Lewis at Ferrari. It's still going to be weird. I don't know how I feel about seeing Lewis in the Ferrari red. It's like Tom Brady in Tampa Bay Buccaneer red. It's just going to be something totally different. I'm kind of looking forward to it in a way, though, because I want to see how he does in that Ferrari car. But I think as a Mercedes fan, you just have to cherish the final races of the season with Lewis and Bono. going together. You know that Liberty Media are going to milk every ounce of that in their YouTube posts. So we're going to probably get the full Lewis Hamilton career at Mercedes over the final month in a series of YouTube videos coming out.
So heading into this weekend, we've seen some terrific racing, with the Dutch Grand Prix coming back. I know last year rain really played a factor. Fernando Alonso had a really terrific race, but things would happen. So I guess question to you is, we've talked about Sergio Perez, but like, what other drivers are probably going to be on the hot seat this weekend after the summer break?
Hot seat. Honestly, I'm gonna say Lando Norris is pretty much on the hot seat right now because he's got a car that's capable of winning, and he needs to showcase that he is a championship quality driver. In terms of being able to convert poles, I think he is the one that's lost like the most positions on the start. Out of like all the
He
top
has.
8, right, this season, and he just can't afford that anymore. He needs to be able to figure out the clutch issue that's going on in that car and be able to, I find sometimes too when he loses positions, he gets very down on himself, and it's very hard for him to come back. He just needs to keep a positive mind, knowing that he is in the fastest car and that he's just got to take advantage of that and just attack. And I think he could possibly win 3 to 4 races coming back, but he really needs to showcase to himself and to the fans, probably the F1 world, that he is capable of doing so.
Oh, I 100% agree. That is exactly where I was going with my hot seat as well. I think Lando's got to be feeling it from all angles. One, he's got the fastest cars you alluded to. Two, this is the first time in his career where he can even sniff a world championship. I think it's unlikely because of various reasons. Max has got a big lead. We know that the top now is crowded. There's a lot of different drivers who compete for wins, so it's going to be difficult to consistently put it on top. But I think the big reason for me is that not only is he facing pressure to deliver some wins, it's that his teammate is starting to catch up. We got to remember his teammate is, 1.5 years into his F1 career. He is not even close to peaking. Lando, we can argue that this may not be the peak of his career, but he's close, right? As a driver in your mid-20s, you're not developing significantly further, but Piastri in his early 20s absolutely is, as he's getting more and more comfortable in the sport, more and more comfortable in that McLaren, and we've seen that over the last few races, right? He was great in Spa. I mean, he looked great in Austria as well. So I think, as Piastri continues to push Lando more than he's probably comfortable with, that's going to put him even more on the hot seat because, those teammate battles can get really spicy. And I think to this point, Lando really hasn't been challenged by Piastri in a way that's made him uncomfortable. So it'll be interesting to see the way that pans out the second half of the season and how he handles it. And with that being said, I want to pivot that into what my spicy hot take is for the second half of the season, which is that Oscar Piastri finishes ahead of Lando Norris in the Drivers' Championship. Currently 30 points behind. I think he catches and passes him in the second half. That is my spicy hot take for the rest of the 2024 season.
It's like you knew I was wearing this shirt today with the spicy pepper.
Yeah.
Thank you to the ladies at I Give an F1 podcast. That's a pretty good one. That is going to be interesting to see that dynamic between those two drivers, especially what happened when Oscar's first win under the quote unquote questionable team orders. How is Zach Brown going to handle both those drivers? They say that he wants them to race, but like those radio messages say a different thing. I think I'm going to go out on a limb. I think Lance Stroll is going to be out of a seat this year.
Oh, wow. That is spicy.
That is spicy because daddy's money talks loud. And if he's able, if he performs so bad that his dad says, nah, you're not having a seat next year, like, you lose. Personally, I don't mind that, but I love the spiciness of that take. That is like a Carolina Reaper level spiciness right there.
You just got to look at like the sports bets and you got to go down to the plus 5,000s and you just got to pick one and just hope for the best.
This is going to sound ridiculous, but my spicy take of the season is that Sergio Perez is going to have one race win in the final 8 races. Whew. I think he has felt he has now understood what the pressure is, and now understanding that there were higher powers that kept him in his seat at Red Bull. he is going to become more motivated in the second half of the season to perform in that Red Bull car. He has won races in that car before. He can do it again. And I think he's going to do it at the Mexican Grand Prix because
So
all the stars align for this to happen, right? With Liberty Media saying, "Oh, we can't really have him leaving because of this. We want him to be there at the Mexican Grand Prix." What better way to, basically shut the haters up than to win your home GP in that case?
I was gonna say that it was not gonna be that. Like they'll pick another race, but just not his home race, just to make sure they say, "Oh, it's not rigged, I swear."
No, that's like sports.
I'm waiting for us to roll up on Grand Prix weekend and then them announce that Michael Massey is coming back to direct the FIA for the Mexican Grand Prix. And then the fix is in. We're ready to go. Yeah, as a steward.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw this. Speaking about Grand Prix, you can buy Grand Prix tickets for the US Grand Prix at Costco.
For an affordable
I saw
price
that.
too. Like, I mean, 380 USD for, I think, for the full weekend package. Come on.
What is that conversion in
Pretty
Canadian?
good.
Like 4 something?
Cheaper than what
Like
Montreal would
$5.
be, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely cheaper.
I think these are some pretty good spicy takes. If you would have to guess your podium for this weekend, who do you think is your top 3? I guess I'll start. I'm gonna go Max just because based on stats and just how he's dominated at the Dutch Grand Prix, and he's gonna go 4 for 4. I'm gonna go Oscar second, and I'm gonna go Lando Norris third. And but that could change at any second. I'm gonna say within 2.5 seconds for second and third.
Wow. I'm going to go Max first, of course, for obvious reasons. Home race, Red Bull fan. I couldn't predict any other way. Second, I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton. I think we're going to see a little Lewis Max on track action. I think with the two of them having competitive cars, we haven't really seen that since 2021. And, Max has kind of been either taking engine penalties or having some, luck not go his way. And so they haven't really battled on track yet. But I think that's going to happen this weekend. So we'll go Hamilton second and then Oscar Piastri third. Andrew, what do you think?
I'm going to go Max P1. I mean, he's never lost at home. And I am not going to bet against him if that's the continued trend, because he'll find something in that car, or he'll find something in himself to be able to will with the Dutch fans to get to that P1 finish. I will go George Russell P2, and I think Lando Norris P3 this weekend. I just have a feeling that Lando is going to, actually, ironically, I think Lando's going to start on pole, and then he'll lose some spots at the beginning, and then kind of lead to a P3 finish. But it's kind of the bucking trend that's going on right now with him. But hopefully that is not the continued case for McLaren fans. And speaking of which, McLaren fans, I do have to say something to say to you. Expect more from your team. You have a competitive car. I know you guys have not been fully competitive in a long time. Now you are. Expect greatness from your team and demand it, because you guys are on the up and up and will be winning very soon.
It is, they're looking at rain for Saturday for qualifying. So that will be really interesting to see how each of the teams go. Sunday looks like a sunny day, but anything can happen in Europe. We've seen the weather. We've seen it here in Toronto. Anything can happen. So on that note, we're going to end this week's episode of the F1 podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. And also, on a serious note, thank you for supporting us the last 100 episodes. We have so many more to go. We have many race watches at Trinity Common that are happening throughout the rest of the calendar year. So make sure to follow us on social media in order to secure your spot at our section. Tyler, thanks so much for joining this week's episode. As always, really appreciate you. Andrew, always love chatting with you. Erica couldn't make it to this week's episode. She sends her regrets, but tune into next week as we talk about the Dutch Grand Prix. Will Max Verstappen get his 4th win in a row? Will a different type of orange be on the top of the podium? Time will tell. We'll see you in next week's episode. Bye, everyone.